Chapter 1, titled Alan. Alan Salter had a mini motorbike. We were young, barely 10 years old. It was the late 1980s, and our shed love of motorbikes and all things fast meant we soon become best mates. He'd let me ride on his mini motorbike, and this just helped my love of motorbikes grow. As the years went by, we drifted apart. Alan took a successful academic route at school. My path was, well, a much less legal one. My dad was scared that I'd end up in prison and often told me so. 4 years on, I did eventually listen to him after I realised that my legal tendencies were turning me into someone I didn't like, and not many other people liked either. Thankfully, turning my back on my less legal activities brought Alan and other friends back into my life in 1995. I was 15 and had already made a huge change to my life. Alan was still as mad about motorbikes and excitedly told me he'd be getting a scooter for his 16th birthday. I decided that I wanted one too, so we could ride around. While I waited for my birthday to arrive, I spent months trailing after Alan and his scooter on my mountain bike. In the UK, you need to complete a compulsory basic training course before you can ride any motorbike on the road. This includes scooters. My parents had lost friends in motorbike accidents, and although not happy about me taking to a scooter, they paid for my CBT course, and for my birthday, they got me the much longed for second-hand scooter. I think what finally convinced them to allow me to have the scooter was the knowledge that it would ensure I was hanging around with Alan and other scooter-mad friend Jamie, rather than the people who were such a bad influence on me. Jamie and Alan were both months older than me. After he turned 17, Alan gave up his scooter for his mum's car. Jamie progressed from his scooter to a 125 DT scrambler bike. I love riding pillion on it. So did Alan. It went faster than 30 miles an hour and had proper gears. I had left school at 16 and drifted from job to job. As I approached my 17th birthday, I was getting some manual work, but would often just not turn up and pull frequent sickies, as I'd rather spend the day riding my scooter and hanging out with my friends. After I lost yet another job, my mum and dad decided giving me £3.50 a day to pay for petrol. I never thanked them properly at the time, but looking back, struck by how generous they were. I finally landed a job at a warehouse at the grand old age of 17. Finally realised that keeping a job and earning a wage meant that I not only had money for petrol, but money for obligatory drunken weekends. I eventually followed Alan's example, ended up passing my driving test and using my mum's car. My parents were a lot happier about that, but I still dreamed of getting my own motorbike. Jamie still had his 125 DT, and as much as fun as riding pillion was, it wasn't enough. It was lunchtime and I was bored. I was eating lunch at the warehouse with a workmate called Adam. We were not happy with our jobs and sat there complaining about them over our sandwiches. Nowadays, I'm a firm believer in fate, and what happened next helped cement my faith. I grabbed a copy of the Yellow Pages that was lying nearby and started flicking randomly through the pages. I looked across the table at Adam and stated in a rather dramatic fashion, "The page fate chooses where I'll get my next job." My finger chose the company. Fate indeed had chosen, and as I looked down at the book, I was shocked. My finger had landed on the nearby Angel Islington branch of Daytona Motorcycles. I did the only thing I could do. I picked up the telephone and called them. I nervously asked to speak to the manager. I didn't know what I would say or I would convince them to hire me. So when the manager took the call, I blurted out, "Hello, my name's Kevin Whitehead. I'm 17 years old. I'm really passionate about motorbikes and I would like to be a mechanic. Are there any vacancies for apprentices?" I barely paused for breath. "Actually," replied the manager, who I later learned was called Mark, "we were just talking about getting an apprentice. Can you fit alarms, can you?" Unfortunately not. My heart sank, but I continued. "I've never even worked on an engine, but I'm very keen." There was a silence that lasted a few seconds, then a reply I did not really expect. "Pop down. We're after someone with more experience, but just to see." I had 35 minutes left of my lunch break. I said goodbye to Adam, ran out of the room, down to the car park, jumped into my scooter and sped to Daytona Motorcycles. I wondered if this would be a life-changing moment. I can definitely say it was.